huge information blackout too, which is it's brutal for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they have for us here in this dungeon. We've seen, in Theater of Pain, we've actually seen Just So play this dungeon, and it looked like they were basically copying the Western strat that we've seen in Cup 4. I think it was even the PI me strategy. PI me has shown us this like really fast strat, and it looked like most other teams were adapting to that one. And we've also seen Just So show that strategy yesterday. But we've seen, in the meantime, Perplexed play a completely new strategy where they go into the Xav area second instead of going to the Gorechop area. And that was the fastest strat we've seen in this global final. So we'll see what Stygia can bring here, and DGS as well. As we already see a little bit of a difference here in comp, Stygia is playing this Moonkin Mage Shadow Priest Pelacom, while DGS is playing Elemental Shaman Mage Windwalker.
I think I preferred the DGS comp just at its face value over this over the comp from Stygia. It feels like the Chinese teams have actually put a really high priority on the Moonkin for a lot of their runs over the course of the whole entire weekend, even in situations where the Western teams that we've seen haven't really put that high of an emphasis on Moonkin. So I think that is actually one of the biggest comp differences, is that Moonkin just sees a lot more play from some of these Chinese teams. And you see that being reflected in the boss damage. Stygia able to absolutely nuke the first boss before Does Gargoyle stream by a magnitude of almost 20 seconds. Same cooldowns were used. Both teams ended up running that Bloodlust, but that's just the Moonkin difference right there, is the first boss is just going to melt significantly quicker.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting to see, because of course Moonkin does have a lot of... I think I actually saw a full moon go down on Stygia's side.
True.
So I think the full moon definitely helped him out a little on that burst there, because Elemental Shaman and Windwalker, they also have really good burst cooldowns like for these kind of pulls. So interesting to see that it was such a big difference because of that comp difference here. But yeah, Stygia going to that... I forgot the boss's name, area. Let's just call it the platform area. Kulturak, that's the name. You're going to the Kulturak area, gathering these souls. We do have Inspired here, so that means none of these souls can actually be CC'd if they pull the Inspired mobs with them. So that's a very difficult pull. We've seen people go down here in the past because of the Soul Storm as well of the Portal Guardian. You can see how everyone is dropping incredibly low. DGS gathering up the same pull, and you can see how much they are struggling. Just so much damage going out on the group.
Exactly. I mean, it is really scary if you don't have just a lot of on-demand AoE, where DGS should have more on-demand AoE, having that Windwalker Monk and that Elemental Shaman over the Shadow Priest Moonkin. But Stygia is able to pull off that pull that they needed quite well. I need to check and see if Stygia is actually playing... Okay, so they are playing Necrolord on their Vengeance Demon Hunter, whereas from the side of Does Gargoyle stream, they're playing Necrolord on their Elemental Shaman. So it's a slight different placement of where you're getting that that Necrolord banner from the side of Stygia versus DGS as well.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, it actually is better, I think, for strat-wise to have the Necrolord on a DPS over a tank, because we've actually seen teams struggle in the past when they did this first pull in the Gorechop area where there's a banner in the corner. We've seen the tanks struggle to activate the banner and then lose aggro to the mages because they were just sitting there clicking, or maybe even proccing their cheap death because of it. So definitely a little bit of an advantage to have it on a damage dealer, because it's not as crucial as a tank having to click it mid-pull. But yeah, we see Stygia actually pretty big in the lead. They're basically just one trash pack in the lead. They're now spawning that 20% pride. You see everyone's dropping kind of low, and we still see this interesting build of the Moonkin not running Heart of the Wild, which is a very interesting choice. Of course, Heart is a 5-minute cooldown, but it really helps out your healer on these prides whenever there's any sort of struggle. So interesting choice to not run that emergency healing talent for the Moonkin here on Stygia's side.
Exactly. And I think that they are... So right now, you do see that they're starting to even out in terms of where they are in the dungeon. This is the advantage of Does Gargoyle Stream's comp. Does Gargoyle Stream is definitely going to have a slightly lower boss damage as a whole, but they're going to have significantly more burst AoE. So the points of where the burst AoE are coming is probably like heavier in the Gorechop wing. This platform pull here with this Bone Reaver that you see Stygia starting to group right now, these are both pulls that Does Gargoyle Stream should either have an easier job or should just do significantly faster. Whereas Stygia, on the bosses, they should be able to just burn the bosses a little bit quicker. And that's where the advantage of Stygia's comp comes into play. So there's definitely going to be some ebb and flow and give and take from both of these compositions where we're going to see just a lot of their burst damage coming in, where the damage profiles do vary.
Yeah, and we also see a little bit of a difference in trash percentage. I'm not 100% sure where DGS got that extra 2%. It must have been more souls that they pulled at the start, because otherwise I haven't seen any differences. So that's something we can keep an eye on, because it's possible that we see one less pull even in the mini-boss area. That would be a pretty big deal. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that difference and see what Stygia has to pull more compared to DGS. Both of them are going to be proccing that Pride here, though. So they're going to have a Pride buff for Kulturak.
I think you commented about this on yesterday's cast, whether or not you should be looking to skip this Pride or not. It looks like Stygia is positioning themselves to... okay, so they killed those two mobs at the exact same time, which is kind of interesting, because typically you'd rather just spawn the Pride a little bit early with the Dark Speaker, like you see from DGS, and then just like hit the Pride and cleave the Dark Speaker by itself. But now Stygia is here.
Didn't have enough
just
percentage, right? Because they had the less percentage, so they needed to kill all of them to spawn it. Yeah.
That is so strange. It is the difference in their percentage of where they were getting their stuff. I wonder what it's gonna. Do you actually think that this makes a difference in what they're like? This is going to be like one or two mobs difference. Do you think that this will really change any pull? I mean, there is potential.
It's also just possible that they pull the souls that they're missing onto the boss now and cleave them down. If that is the case, then they're not losing anything, right? Because then they can just like cleave them down as they follow this boss. They have Inspired Storming is not really gonna prevent them from doing something like that here. It can be dangerous because this boss does do a lot of damage, but they have the Shadow Priest, so they can Master Spell the debuff. So it should not be an issue theoretically. They also have the Pride buff. But the thing that I'm more surprised about is that neither of the teams actually decided to pull the Pride onto his last platform, because we've seen Perplex do that, right? We've seen Perplex save Bloodlust all the way to this point and then actually just cleave down the Pride with the boss. And I thought that was a really cool strat, but it didn't end up saving... Oh, Mason actually going down again. Mason already went down on the platform earlier. He did use his Ankh to get back up, and now he went down again. They do have a Battle Rest available, but it has to be the Engineering Rest that they need to use here. And I also don't see where he is. He didn't fall down, did he?
Did he? I don't see where he is either. Did he fall off? How would he have fallen off? I wonder, like...
Okay, so it's possible that he fell off while trying to pull the Shackled Soul? Like, maybe he went to the corner trying to pull it.
Did he get hit by a tornado? Like, that's the only thing that would even make sense.
That's possible. Krona going down, too. This is really bad for them. They can probably get up Krona, though.
Yeah, so there's a world marker on his body.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. So they did get up Krona. They are probably able to finish up this boss. But losing Mason here is really bad, and this is going to take them a long time. And everyone is taking so much damage as well. I mean, Molt is probably running out of cooldowns at this point, and there's just so much damage in the group. He's struggling to keep everyone alive. If they have a full team wipe here, that's going to cost them so much time. They have to somehow manage to finish this off, but this is incredibly hard to heal when you have all of those debuffs and the Drain Soul going out.
I mean, on the other side, we talked about it before the show. Stygia didn't have like the most insane times coming into this weekend, but they're looking really good right now, having no mistakes. They need to make sure that they're getting kicks on all of the sludge spears on the left side of the screen, because they're starting to do one of their Gorechop wing pulls. They do CC that one sludge spear with Shackle Soul in the side, and just more issues happening to Does Gargoyle Stream. Kulturak at 7% HP. I think they should be able to solo the duo the boss from here, but this is terrible
He's
for their
gonna
time.
get drained
Hero.
sold. What happens here? It's gonna be on the healer and the tank. So
Oh, no.
both IQ and pump mode are getting the drain sold. And the boss is casting
Spectral
because
reach.
he's
Oh,
not
no.
in melee range. And he didn't. It's a curse. He cannot dispel it because
Yes.
paladins cannot
Yes.
dispel curses. So he's casting again. He didn't manage to get into it. IQ's going down. Mode is the only one alive. The boss is on 2%. He's gonna get a
Bobs
drain
himself.
soul as well. He does have Bop up, so he should be able to survive a little while longer. But I'm not
He's
sure
dead.
if he
He's
can finish
dead.
this off. There's no way. He's not even. No, my God, this is a full team wipe for DGS.
Oh,
This is a
no.
huge time loss for them. That is so. Yeah, the death on Maestin here to start, not being able to get him back up, just cost them. This on a plus 20 key, even though it's not tyrannical. This boss is really hard. And especially when you play the Venthyr Paladin, if you use your Ashen Hollow at the start with the Pride to just damage the boss, and then you're running out of. And then it's also their supportive damage dealer that was down, right? It was the shaman that could have helped out with the healing, but he was down, so he wasn't able to help.
What?
And yeah, just huge disaster for
So-
DGS here.
So I'm looking at it back right now. They pulled the boss before Maestin was even there, and then he had no way of getting back to the group, so he had to just kill himself. I'm so confused what happened for DGS. Like, what led them to the point where they're like, he released, right? Which was, I think, a mistake in its own right, but it's kind of
he
whatever.
released? I thought he would have unked. Wait, on the,
Exactly.
you mean on the platform before?
Exactly, he
Oh, so he-
released, and so he was
oh,
trying to get back
okay.
to the group, but the group pulled the boss before he was even there, and then he wasn't.
No, didn't he unk? I thought he had unked.
I mean, he
Because
was not with
alive
the
again
group.
after dying.
He did not touch Kultharok once. So I don't
Okay,
know
this
what
is-
happened.
Yeah. Either way, this is like a huge time loss for. They also popped their bloodlust now for this boss, of course, because they are so far behind now. But I mean, let's focus on Stygia at this point, because of course it's
Yeah.
Stygia that is in the lead very far at this point, and if they're not making any sort of mistakes or not any huge mistakes, then they're gonna be the ones winning. And I'm kind of surprised by their play so far. They just pulled off this big gas bag pull that we have seen multiple teams wipe to in the past. This is something that we've seen a lot from
yeah.
the Western teams, where we've seen lots and lots of teams wipe to this just because there's so much AoE going out in the whole group with the gas bag, with all of the interrupts that you have to do on the Slash Spurs. And then you have the Pride spawn mid pull as well. And they did drop pretty low as I glanced over to their HP bars, but they did manage to finish it off. And now they're finishing off this horror as well, and they're going to be pulling those two mobs here on top of the boss with the Pride. They don't have Celestial Alignment available here, so it might take them a little while to finish off these two high HP mobs. But yeah, they're doing a good job. 0 deaths so far, and they are having a good time. They're 12 minutes, 20 into the dungeon, and almost done with the last Gorechop area
yeah.
here. So good job.
They're having an absolutely spectacular run. I think that they're doing a great job. Again, like the compositional differences, they're really playing up their comp a lot. For some reason, their Moonkin isn't running trees though, which I don't really understand. But you know, hey, they're having a clean run. I think the most important thing to focus on, for at least for Stygia, is that they're having a good run and they're playing their game plan. They're doing MDI-sized pulls, which are very dangerous in their own right, and they're able to pull them off even with a comp that should, in theory, be higher boss damage and lower AoE. They're able to pull off the very dangerous AoE pulls on a 20, on Fortified, and they're getting them done just in the way that they need to do them. So Stygia is having an absolutely phenomenal run here. 19 gets hit by the thing. Has to pop
Yeah, he gets hit, but it
chain
shoots.
wall. Yeah, has to immediately disperse. But they should be able to down this boss. They have 2 battle reses to their name, which is, I mean, they're able to come back from some mistakes. DGS is finally entering the Gorechop wing, so Stygia very firmly in the lead here.
Yeah, definitely Stygia. We see the Ashen Hollow now also being used by PDF as well to just finish up this boss. And Celestial Alignment is back up now for the Moonkin. He might be saving it though for the next pull, as this boss can probably just be finished off by the Ashen and the just normal damage that they have without popping any extra cooldowns. DGS did now manage to finish up that boss and do the further pulls, but yeah, obviously they're really far behind at this point, as Stygia is now moving on. And yeah, interesting choice to not run trees for the Moonkin. I was thinking that it might have something to do with the Inspired. If you're pulling, like, if you cannot afford to CC the Inspired mob and you just have to pull everything on top of each other, then trees don't taunt through that, which maybe is the reason why. But still, very interesting choice, because usually we see Moonkins run trees no matter what the affix is, right? So yeah,
I'm here for it.
To see him. Yeah.
I like seeing that. I like seeing the innovative comps coming out of the Chinese region. They really favor the Moonkin pick a lot. And, I mean, they're using it to... I mean, he's doing good damage, and they're able to just burn bosses. So they're using it to its strengths. So that plus the Shadow Priest and the Holy Paladin. Stygia looking really solid here. I wonder if they're going to pull the double champion. We saw that yesterday by one of the teams. It's very dangerous to pull two of these champions on top of one another, so I don't know if I necessarily expect it, but it is a pretty big time save if done.
Yeah, definitely. We do see them just now finish up and these mini bosses actually are taking a long time, so this wing, I would say this wing takes the longest out of all three wings. Yes. At least if you pull all the mini bosses. We've seen some teams skip a lot of the mini bosses and then maybe it doesn't, but also Xav, the last boss, just takes so long. It's a little bit quicker if you ignore all of the banners, which is something we've seen some teams do, and just focus the boss. But it's still just, it just takes long because it's fortified, and these mini bosses have so much HP. So it takes a long time for them to finish it off. They also skip the Pride here usually. So they don't have a Pride buff to do anything quicker. So that's why everything is just taking forever for them. They want to save the Pride for the last boss to be able to finish that boss off quicker. And so that's why we've seen almost all the teams just spawn the Pride at the exit area here and use Invisibility Potion to just skip past.
And right on cue, as Nagura said, they're starting to spawn this Pride in the in that entrance area. They pop the Stampeding Roar. They very speedily run away from that Pride, all popping Invisibility Potion to be able to make sure they don't get combat with it. They're leaving that Pride for later. They will get it right before the final boss, whenever there is that downtime. And now they have... Oh, this is a really scary pull. They shackle undead the Inspired Champion, but now they are pulling the mini boss with all these Arbalists. Ew. This is really scary. Okay, and now some issues are happening for Stygia, exactly like we were worried about, because that captain was so close to the rest of the pack. Those conscripts and those Arbalists were able to just shoot everybody. They weren't able to move all the way in, and that's a full wipe for Team Stygia. Fortunately enough for them, Gargoyles...
they have to play the Pride.
Oh, no, they have to play the Pride here. This is so bad.
Yeah, this is actually a huge time loss for Stygia. I mean, I wouldn't say this is as big of a time loss as the full team wipe as DGS had. But DGS is now also going to this area. Of course, this mini-boss... Of course, they're still behind. I would say, like, 2 minutes. But the fact that they have to play the Pride here... is going to cost them later on. They can at least use the buff though. They can use it for this next pull, but they would prefer to have it for the last boss. This is the whole reason why you want to skip the Pride, so you do have it for the last boss to be able to just use all of your cooldowns with the Bloodlust and just be able to completely nuke the last boss. But now we do see them actually manage to skip that mini boss, which was, I assume, the plan in the first place. No, it wasn't. So they just mind-soothed it to go past and then to see the captain and then pull everything else on top. Okay, so this time the captain is further away.
They're getting
so it's not applying that aura.
They're still just getting shot by the Arbalists.
Yeah, they have to line
Oh, they have to line everything. Please, line. Stop getting shot. This is so bad. Okay, this is fine. They now have everything Sigil of Chains and grouped up. That pull was very scary for them again. I think they have to be more aggressive with their line of sighting to be able to get everything grouped up in a timely manner and not get... They're getting the Jagged Whirl bleed from the Arbalist on them like really early and not getting the mobs grouped up. But I don't think that they're going to be punished for it because of DGS's mistakes being just so much more paramount, unfortunately. But now Stygia is going to pull this captain. They have the inspired captain engaged. Not really too much left for them. DGS is finally down to their first champion, so there is potential for Does Gargoyle Stream to come back, but this would be off the back of another Stygia mistake. Stygia would have to make just like another, they would have to have like another team wipe or something like that, because they're somewhere in the order of, I don't know, let's say like a minute ahead almost, plus there's a little bit of death differential that has to be factored in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I would say almost 2 minutes even. So it's definitely on Stygia here to make a mistake if TGS wants to catch up at all. And there's not much left in the dungeon, right? We have the 2 bosses and we have the 3% trash, which are the mobs that they left in that first/last boss area at the very start. So really not much left for them to do. But this boss can cause some issues because people choose to ignore these oppressive banners. As you can see, the banner is just standing there being ignored. So that means that, there we go, using the wild charge to the mage to be able to get out of this. But yeah, if you get a little bit unlucky and you get the frontal on the same people that run out of movement speed abilities, like for example, if the Moonkin doesn't have wild charge ready and doesn't have the Nitro ability ready anymore, then there's nothing really you can do. Also, if the Paladin gets hit by it a lot, so it can cause some issues, and some people can go down if you do this risky strategy of ignoring the banners. But the boss is dropping pretty quickly. As you can see, unfortunately, the Convoke is not so good anymore if you have the banners up, because half the damage is, of course, gonna go into those banners.
Exactly. I mean, that's why you want to pop all of your CDs like on pull before any banners spawn, stuff like that. They're actually doing a really good job of burning Zav pretty low, whereas on this other side, DGS still working on the second champion. They are done with count though, so they're able to skip this last champion here. They're just gonna Invis Potion by, not have to deal with that at all, and they are starting to catch back up with Stygia, but I think it is almost too little too late. Stygia doesn't even have that pride to deal with. They're all just going to go upstairs. They have to deal with the final 3 mobs of the instance, and they will pull those with the bottom little bit of Mordretha that they have to deal with. They do also have Bloodlust available to them for Stygia as well, so Mordretha is going to take a little bit longer than typical practice time would lead you to believe for Stygia, but overall, they without some major mistakes, they are going to take this home, it seems like.
Yeah, we do see them go up now to trigger that last event. Of course, they did finish that Pride already, so they don't have that extra buff, and they're just going to have to wait around here until the boss spawns. So this is usually why teams skip the 80% Pride and then play it now, because at this point there's a little bit of an RP event until the last boss spawns, and you don't want to wait around and do nothing in the MDI, of course. So at this time you usually do play the Pride while somebody is going up to start the event, and then they go down again finishing off the Pride, so you don't really waste this RP downtime. But it's okay for Stygia, of course, as DGS had a lot more time lost on their full team wipe they had on a boss, so Stygia should totally be able to do this boss. They have the Bloodlust being used now as well. They are missing the Pride buff, but this boss should be okay for them to finish off, especially now with the Ashen being popped as well by PDF and the Wings and the PI as well. All the offensives being used here. You can see the huge amount of damage they're doing to this boss. The boss is just melting.
Yeah, Stygia looking really good here. They just need to make sure that they do grab those 3 mobs, the double conscripts and the, oh gosh, the caster mob that's standing over there. I don't know the name of these mobs. And just pull it into the last little bit of the boss. They do still have Bloodlust rolling. Stygia, DGS, a little bit too little too late. They do down Zav, but Mordretha dropping sub 15% for Stygia. They just have to dodge one more set of charges. The Grasping Rift is coming out for them. I think that they're actually playing this a little bit slower because they do know how far ahead they are. They realize that they don't have to be super aggressive with it, and they can just kind of play this a little bit slower and a little bit more calculated. And I think that this is a really great adaptation to just make sure that they do take it down and secure the victory. Stygia now has to deal with some of these mobs that are off to the side. These 2 conscripts and this 1 caster mob, the Ritualist, and DGS, you do see that they are grabbing their mobs and like CCing in a way that they would be ready to pull if they were going to, but the dungeon is effectively over. Once these mobs go down, Stygia will reach 100% enemy forces, and they will take down this victory.
Yeah, Stygia, I mean, of course DGS did have this big mistake, but I do think their strategy here on Stygia's side is really impressive, because this is really just a strategy that all the Western teams have been running, and they really deserved this win. Of course, they had the team wipe there, but it didn't cost them too much time. So yeah, good job Stygia here, winning that first dungeon.
That's right. Theater of Pain just claiming a lot of lives on both sides there, but Stygia just sticking with the plan, getting game number 1 under their belts in this one, Dranos.
Yeah, I mean, that was a impressive run from Stygia. Obviously, there was the one wipe in the middle there, but things were looking good throughout the rest of the dungeon, and they kept all their deaths contained to that one full team wipe from which they recovered nice and quickly. I think it was a very strong performance from them.
Yeah, and we've been looking at like where we start having each team sort of hit their stride and what they're most prepared for in a lot of respects. And Stygia, you know, they had a really rough time at the very beginning of the match, or at the very beginning of the weekend, having to go up against Echo, but they are well prepared for these lower bracket rounds here in Agura so far.
Yeah, it really looks like they might have just focused all of their practice time on this lower bracket, and it really makes sense for them, especially if those first 2 dungeons that they played against Echo, if those dungeons aren't really gonna be in the map pool anymore for them in this lower bracket run, then it really makes sense to just skip the practice for those dungeons, because it's just such a hard task to win against the number 1 seed Echo. So it looks like they're a lot more prepared for this series here than they were against Echo, and I'm here for it. I mean, they're doing a good job.
I think part of it too is that they're not trying to like force compositions that they're not overly prepared with. Like they were able to put in all of their practice time on like 1 or 2 comps, maybe only 1 or 2 characters even potentially, and it allows you to you're able to just like quickly allocate and assess and like determine solutions to routing problems in a different way if you are super familiar with that character. So say that character is your main, obviously there is going to be a strategy or a comp that could potentially be better. However, if you're like really familiar with this one class, you're able to typically make the pulls, the NDI style pulls that these teams are doing. You're able to make it work with this Shadow Priest Moonkin comp that in theory should be worse for Theater of Pain, but they are like, it is their mains and is their comfort pick, and I think that they do show a great job of why they did end up playing it here.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you kind of underestimate how important just the performance and the gameplay is beyond just the class. It's not just slot in this class and then you win. You know, these teams are, you know, making it work with, like you said, not the most optimal comp we're going to be looking for here. And Dranos, what were some of the other things you wanted to cover for this theater run?
Yeah, so let's take a look at where things fell off the rails for DGS, which is
there any storming?
This storming. Look at this heat-seeking missile of a storming spawning now and going around a bit.
Oh, no. I'm dead to the edge. It makes sense.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, so I have a question. So he released, which is fine. Why didn't he sack himself to the shackled souls and then they mass res him on the platform? Why instead did they pull? Why did they pull the boss without him there? I'm so confused. What happened?
So yeah, let's take a look at a result of that as well. When we do get to that boss fight, that was where the run just was a complete disaster for DGS. And I think if they actually had killed that boss off in time, they might have been able to claw back the map here. But at the end of this boss fight, 2% HP, IQ down, the rest of the team down, Mode trying this heroic 1v1, bops himself, but unfortunately, Bop is not effective against the magic effects that are happening here and ends up going down with Kultharok at literal 1 HP. That full reset there sets them so far behind that then, even though Stygia has this wipe, even though they have this, they have to run back here in this section, it's just not enough to catch back up, and DGS ends up losing the game there. And credit to Stygia, besides this section of the dungeon, they had nothing else go wrong for them in the whole dungeon. Now here, things did go wrong for them. They did end up having this not work out the way it was supposed to look. I don't know exactly how it was supposed to look or how this exactly went wrong, but it did, and they ended up wiping there. They got it back though the second time, and they were just fine.
The second time it also looked bad, but you know, it worked, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Now these teams don't have to go to Theater of Pain for a little bit, but man, that dungeon is absolutely brutal for them. But you know what they do have to look forward to, of course, is if they win Nagura, then they have Theater of Pain again in the very next round.
Let's go.
Oh no.
All right.
And the storming is also so unfortunate here because on this tiny platform where it happened, on that platform there's so much stuff going on already. You have the frontal that you need to dodge, otherwise you fall off. And then you have, as a caster, I think, yeah, he's one of 2 casters. So he's has a 50-50 on getting that curse that spawns the swirlies underneath you. And if you get hit by that, you get feared. So it's so much stuff that you have to look out for. And then you also have these tornadoes as well. So, it feels
Well,
bad.
it's also funny because I was just reading the Doyu interview that they had with Ian, and they were talking about, storming, of course, and they're like, oh yeah, it definitely disproportionately affects melee and everything like that, but man, that one was just a heat seeker coming right for the ranged. Oh, yes. But, we haven't talked enough as well about Stygia as a team since they're, of course, from the Chinese region. We don't have as much information on them, but they did make a fantastic video, and I pinky promise that we're actually going to have audio for this one. So let's check it out, what we got for them.
马上到，马上到，好了。打傲慢，转傲慢。低保小名商这个名字其实，然后正好那天呢，我森多少那个武森他去开低保，因为没有东西选，只能选个名商，说就叫低保小名商吧，然后我们就用了这个名字。你要死了，你家死炸了。确实挺随意的，但是自从选了这个名字以后，大家的低保全都是名商。光吃球。我是 PDF 低保小名商的队长，同时也是队伍里的治疗。一般常用奶萨，我在我们队伍里头就属于一个逗逼。因为有的时候训练嘛，尤其是失误多的情况下会比较低迷，有这样的一种调侃，可能对大家的心情会有一定的调整吧。撤，兄弟们撤！翻车了，兄弟们！好，这是个错误示范。就是我们5个人真正在一起打，其实就是从这次 MDI 开始，但是认识的话，其实都是很久远的了。就可能都认识好几年了。其实一开始大家都是为了小宠物啊，或者为了想入围啊，或者玩一下的，没有想这么认真。但是后来就是大家练着，就有了这方面的兴趣，就说看看自己到底能冲多远。你那就把老一打掉，就行了嘛。因为都是上班族跟大学生嘛，所以我们基本上每天就是从7点到11点，加上周末的全天来练习。开始我们可能就觉得好像没有什么难度。但当你自己去做这件事情，你会发现怎么有这么多细节？这为什么打不掉？为什么就死了？停手！只有你真正去练习以后，你才会发现真的挺难的。像很多本，其实我们都是有几百把的训练量的。像赎罪的第一波怪，这一波怪它有很多的细节，可能我们练了不下50遍才能打出现在这个效果。决赛的时候，通灵战潮的死坠确实比较难受。像门口的这一波怪跟 BOSS 一起带着打，我们大概练了130遍。MDI 打的就是细节，你如果细节不处理好的话，你是没有办法赢得比赛的。我在设计院工作，做工程设计的。我平时在家里头就弹弹琴玩魔方这种。这2个月以来，包括我们队友所有人，除了训练以外，就没有什么太多的其他的业余活动了。应该说，一门心思全都扑在了 MDI 上面。就是我们可以明显看到我们自己的进步。从第2轮的杯赛，我们所有人只能玩自己的一手职业，到后来的我们不断的去尝试新的阵容、新的路线，从最开始的集合式路线到最后的做 MDI 的国际路线，然后到整个阵容的国家队阵容，能走到这一步，其实对于我们而言都是非常满意的一个结果了。我应该是在我大学的时候，也就是6年前左右的时候开始玩的魔兽。然后好像整个生活中也就变成了魔兽填充了一切。我平常在工作跟游戏中反差还是比较大的，因为我工作其实因为属于设计嘛，就每天对着电脑，部分的甲方、上下级游戏里大家就是很平等的、很愉快的去交流，不会有那么多的负担。就你玩魔兽以后，你会发现你身边多了很多朋友，跟你志同道合的好友。怎么啦？通灵战潮的那一波拉法嘛？行，跟你们说嘛，来嘛。我们进了国际赛以后。我们可能是这8支队伍头唯一一支非职业队伍了，差距还是会有的，但是我们还是愿意是尽我们自己所能吧，打好我们自己的风采。
I love that video. We
I
need
love
some
the
drone
video.
shots as well for our intros. That was great. And of course, big thank you to Team Stygia for submitting that for us as well. But yeah, you know, typical. Healer's the funniest guy on the team, making sure he's keeping the whole group together. Nagura, got that.
I'm not sure if that's typical. But yeah, I really love how they're like the whole dynamic and how he's just like outside calling people on his phone about strategies in a necrotic way.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That is some dedication.
He's like, wait a second, don't watch this. This is not what we wanted to
Yeah,
showcase.
he was talking about like how he's gonna be like very positive, keep everybody together. He's like, oh well, we just wiped. Well, all right, everybody, get out of here. We go again. Yep, great interview to be able to see what's going on with them, and of course, Stygia is up. We're setting our sights of Ascension, Dratnos. What are we gonna be looking for in this one?
Yeah, this map is going to be it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a long one, and a lot is going to rest on the triple angel pull at the end. Whether or not these teams are able to do all three at the same time and then kill them all within a couple seconds of each other, that has been something that oftentimes the first 20 minutes of the dungeon go smoothly for teams, and then that is the moment that breaks them. So if they make it to that point neck and neck, I'll be looking for that to be a crucial moment in here.
And no question is that we're going to be having a lot on the line as well for these teams, because loser is going to be eliminated from the tournament. Winner's going to have to start working their way through that lower bracket where every round is going to be eliminating more and more teams. And keep in mind, Golden Guardians kind of waiting in the wings as well here, Tettles, trying to see who they're going to be going up against.
Yeah, I think that for Golden Guardians here, like they should be focused on their own game plan. I don't think they really worry too terribly much about who they're playing against. I think that's just like the format of the MDI is like you really have to focus on your isolated game plan. Don't really worry about what team you're playing against, because that shouldn't change like how you're playing or how you're doing. And I think that for these two teams right here that are on screen, they should also be really focused on what they are doing.
Yeah, no question. Potentially the decider game right now as Stygia is up 1 versus Gargoyle right now as Spires gets underway.
All right, so we do see the mirror comp here. The same comp Stygia has been playing in that the Theater of Pain, but DGS now also switching to that Moonkin Shadow Priest comp. Very interesting. We've seen all teams so far in Spires play the Moonkin. We casters haven't figured out exactly why that is the case. It's probably because of Sooth. And for other utility reasons, I would say, because they also switched from Fortified to Tyrannical. So during the Cups, this dungeon was on Fortified, and now it's Tyrannical. And of course, Moonkin does provide a huge amount of single target damage, so that might be one of the reasons. Plus, also having that Sooth to be able to dispel the enraged mobs, the trash
angels,
mobs, and
yeah.
maybe also the angels at the very end of the dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, though, it doesn't necessarily matter which comp you're playing, although Stygia does seem to be playing, like they're playing a mirrored comp, so it seems like they are playing what is the best comp in this dungeon. I think that you have to just really be consistent here, making sure you're getting your kicks, because this composition from both sides, it is very difficult to get the amount of kicks that is required in a dungeon like Spires of Ascension, because the Forsworn Goliath requires either double melee kick or a lot of different range kicks. And since you are playing a comp that has one 24-second interrupt, one 60-second interrupt, one 30-second interrupt, and then a melee kick, it's super hard to make sure that everything is coordinated. And we saw yesterday from Just So, occasionally you just have to let a cast go off. And like, that is fine as long as everybody is prepared. You make sure that you have a Soothe on the Enrage. That just happens from time to time if you are just running such a comp that has so very few kicks. I'm interested to see where both of these teams are going to pop their first loss in the dungeon, though.
So very interesting to see that Stygia is pulling the boss earlier, and DGS looks to be finishing off this Pride completely. Maestin did pop the Heart of the Wild here. You can see him spam the regrowths because they actually struggle a little to finish off this Pride. While Stygia, on the other hand, just pulled the Pride on top of the boss. They actually had saved their Celestial Alignment and Convoke, as you can see him pop it just now, while DGS actually had Maestin use the Convoke plus CA on the first pull. And just now having some of their cooldowns come back up. So this looks like Stygia is actually quite a bit ahead now because of the difference in offensive cooldown usage and just being able to pull the Pride on top of the boss, while DGS was not able to do that. Now they did also pop the Bloodlust as well on the boss, so they should be able to catch up quite quickly because they have that extra Bloodlust for pure boss damage, and you can see how fast he's dropping. But Stygia should still be able to finish off the boss faster.
Yeah, I think making sure that you have like all of your burst and burn damage whenever the boss is super stacked, as opposed to DGS just kind of letting the boss fly around with their Lust active. Like you said, I think that is just a better use of their offensive cooldowns as a whole, and that is reflected in the boss kill time. As Stygia is like, I guess it's the exact same time, but Stygia should have been Stygia should have been faster there, I guess.
Yeah, it looked like DGS was behind this whole time, but then they actually got their cooldowns back at the very end. But so they did kill the boss at the same time. But of course, Stygia is also going to get their cooldowns back up quicker, and therefore they're going to be making up the time again. So a little bit of a difference here in cooldown usage and how they assigned everything. Very interesting to see. Right now, it looks like they're exactly even. They killed the boss at the same time. But we're going to have to see how that affects their later pulls with those offensive cooldowns as well. We see the Combust, of course, being popped by both of the mages here, just dealing with these stealth claws. It looks like DGS is doing a little bit of a better job keeping them stacked inside that AoE damage, and that's why they finish off this pull quicker. So being able to stack it in that flame patch and that AoE damage from everybody makes them finish off the pull slightly faster for DGS.
Exactly. So now both Stygia and DGS are going to walk around this Praetor. Actually, Stygia uses Fear Sigil on that Praetor to be able to get those mobs just stopping in their patrol. I think they're going to have to meld those off later. Okay, so Sunshine from Stygia does meld that pack off, so he doesn't have to worry about it patrolling back into them. I think that's really smart, because you do see off the side of DGS, if there was like a Praetor that leapt out or something else, there is potential for that pack to get pulled from the side of Gargoyle, but they do get all the mobs killed off relatively quickly. And this is where the pull starts to get scary from both ends. You really have to worry about the casts here. And there is potential for a Rebellious Fist to be going off both sides. You do see the kicks coming through from Stygia and does Gargoyle Stream, making sure that they do have those interrupts allocated. IQ, though, from running away from those Forsworn Goliaths, if the pull lasts much longer, they may end up getting another set of the Rebellious Fist cast. But they do get those off quickly. They Invis Potion, this 40% Pride, they're able to skip it. That's going to be an absolutely massive time save over the side of Stygia. But this next pull that does Gargoyle Stream is going to do, really dangerous.
Yeah, so I actually was just about to say how Stygia is doing a good job focusing down one of the Goliath so they can get the Pride faster and then cleave it down with the second Goliath. But then I saw DGS just running for the skip. So the reason why they focused both of the Goliath, they killed them at the exact same time because one kill would have already spawned the Pride. So they managed to kill them at the same time and then all used the Invis pot to skip it. That's, as you mentioned, just a huge time save for them, as they're already gathering up this spear pool. You can see the spear being popped here, everything gathered up perfectly.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, didn't get the Vortex in time, so the Praetor, the Skirmisher, is outside.
This is
still
really
pretty
scary.
high. I hope they can finish this off because they're all raging at this point. So it's definitely scary for DGS.
Yeah, but we're on the other side, Stygia. They're doing the exact same. Oh gosh, the Ether Divers are coming in really late for Stygia, but as long as everything dies within the Solar Beam, they should be okay. With the Prideful buff, this pull should go a lot cleaner for Stygia. That's the downside of skipping that Pride, is because if you do have any mistakes, then you're just not able to get it done. I actually really liked how Stygia got that Pride because it allowed them to just let the Ether Divers come in super late. They weren't really worried about like the Goliath and the Skirmisher, because they knew that they were going to have enough offensive power to be able to just get everything killed off quickly. And so they were able to just get that done. He's so sick.
The Moonkin managed to flap all the way. Didn't even have to get picked up by the Angel here. We're just waiting for his slow team to get all the way up to this platform now, as he's using the Hibernates for the Ether Diver. And so yeah, both of the teams actually exactly at the same point in the dungeon. This is so close. And I mean, DGS, they were the favorites clearly in this matchup here. And this is an elimination matchup. Whoever is losing this game is just going to be out of the tournament. So DGS, so much on the line, so much pressure for them to win this dungeon. And they're allowed to watch the broadcast. Of course, it is on a delay, so they are not going to know exactly where the teams are at this point in time. But if they're watching, they do know that it's really close between them right now. So this is just adding more and more pressure to DGS at this point.
Yep, DGS seemingly gets their Pride spawned at the exact same moment as Stygia, and they are trying to deal with all of these mobs on top of this Pride. This is really dangerous for the group damage. You need to make sure that you're getting the kicks off. That Praetor, you do see the Ring of Frost coming out for Stygia, not allowing that Praetor to leap out, and then the Ursul's Vortex is that secondary ability used as well, just trying to make sure that that Praetor stacked up on top of this Pride, not going to be Dark Seekering their tank. That's a lot of tank damage. It's magic tank damage too, so it's very scary if that Praetor isn't in melee. So they're doing a good job of being able to deal with that from the side of Stygia, where DGS able to kill off their Pride pretty quickly, and Stygia's dropping low here, Nagura.
Yeah, they don't have Heart of the Wild available either from their Moonkin. He had been using it
Yes.
earlier, so it
Oh
just
my
put everyone
gosh.
so low. They managed to survive, though. It looks like a
Okay.
miracle almost how everyone managed to stay alive. And now they do engage the boss. They have all offensive cooldowns available very soon. Celestial Alignment should be coming up any moment, and we'll see the Ashen Hollow being used as well. We do see Rua being really lucky with full moons in that Theater of Pain. So he's getting some full moons here as well. Then that might be the damage they need. But they also have the Inquisitor still alive. So I would assume that they want to finish it off before. Yeah, there we go. So he's popping his cooldowns
1 minute.
after the Inquisitor is dead. And no
moons.
moon.
We're so sad.
Never
But
lucky.
you saw him go from 4k DPS all the way up to 14, so an absolute massive amount of damage. Vintanax, especially on Tyrannical, is one of those bosses that the longer the boss goes, it starts to get exponentially longer because you're going to start getting more of these missiles coming at you. You're going to start getting more of the recharge phases. So burning this boss with like Prideful buff and with all of your offensive CDs is really good. And on top of that, after this boss, you have a minute and a half of flight time or whatever it is to the next platform. So you just have free time for your cooldowns to come back up, where you're just sitting there waiting, contemplating your next pull, or tabbing over to Twitter to look at nice memes that are posted, that kind of stuff. Normal things that you do.
That's typically what I do when I'm flying up. You can see all of them actually catching the angel mid-flight as well. Saves you a little bit of time if you just jump in the air and click the angel while it's going past. Looks like all of them
Easy.
did make it. Well done for both the teams. And yeah, Stygia finishing off the boss slightly later. Looks
Yes.
like we have a 6 seconds difference here at this point in favor of DGS, and neither of the teams had any deaths so far. So this is really close for both of the teams, and it might decide, like the Bloodlust usage is going to be very, very important for them now, because we've already seen differences in struts at the very end of the dungeon. We've seen just So, for example, save their Bloodlust for the triple angel pool, while I think it was Perplex that did not actually use the Bloodlust for the triple angel
Correct.
pool,
They used it on the
but
boss.
ended up, and they split the angel pool in two. So we'll see what both of those teams decide to do with their Bloodlust and their angels. See if they risk the 3 pool or if they split it up.
So I have a question, Nigger, and you may know the answer to this. If you Stampeding Roar whenever people are on the angels, do the angels move faster?
People have told me this, and I was like laughing it off, and I was like, "There's no way that's actually a thing." But apparently, people say it is a thing. But this
Okay,
might
I
just be
see.
one of those rumors where people say it
this
works.
is so bad
and,
for Stygia.
you know.
This is
yeah.
this is going to be a wipe for Stygia. I think
Ooh,
they
nice.
didn't get the Justicar in the they MC the
finally controlled
Justicar.
it.
Yeah, into the Kyrian weapon, but the pack is so healthy for them. You do see, a Rebellious Fist goes off and 19 goes
Note.
down. They do have the Rebirth coming out, but does Gargoyle Stream has lost mode?
This is a full team fight for. There's no way they can recover this. They were all raging at the same time, and even though it was a really good idea for 19 to mind control that Inquisitor into the spear, but at that point he stopped doing any damage while he's mind controlling, and they were already behind, and they just didn't manage to finish off the pack. Everything was raging at the same time. They're running out of interrupts. All of those Inquisitors casting those lashes and those things just going off on the whole group, and they just did not manage to finish it off. Huge huge time loss for Stygia, as DGS lost mode, but it was at the very end of their pack, and they just used the battle rest to get him back up and didn't lose much time at all on their side.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this Pride too is dropping DGS super low here. They're going to be able to finish it off, and I'm interested to see, like you said, where their Bloodlust is going to come, because if they do Bloodlust this boss in Ophirion, then that will mean that they're not going to play triple Angel. That will mean they're going to play 2 Angels and then 1 Angel. It seemed like from Perplex's side yesterday, whenever they played something similar to that it didn't matter too terribly much. Maystein clones that Warden, which made me think that he was going to pop all of his CDs here, but I don't know necessarily why he cloned that.
To interrupt the cast, maybe he didn't want to have the weapon cast go off just yet.
Potentially.
That could be something, but yeah, interesting to see the Bloodlust usage as we've talked about, and if they decide to do the triple Angel pull, there's still a very high chance of that going wrong for DGS. And in case that does happen, then there's still a very good chance for Stygia to win this. So all eyes on DGS now to see if they can pull off the rest of this dungeon here. It's also a possibility for them if they would end up knowing that Stygia had this full team wipe, they might decide to do like a safer strategy. In my opinion, the safer strategy is to use Bloodlust on this boss and then split the Angel pool.
Sure.
But it looks like they're not committing the last. Okay, so no last being used so far, so that must mean that they're using it for the triple Angel pool, right? So they are going for the risky pool.
But they just sent all of their CDs right here. Ashen and CA Convoke got used, which that is a lot committed, like on a really long cooldown to not be able to, like, it's going to be really hard to pull off the triple Angel pull without those CDs available is what I'm trying to say. I do wonder. Stygia is actually bloodlusting the boss.
Yeah, they're gonna melt this boss right now. They have the Ashel committed, they're using everything at this point. You can see how much damage they're doing to the boss. They're gonna be catching up to DGS. I mean, they're just one-facing this boss. This boss is bad. So this is a huge this is a huge time save for Stygia here. They're gonna be able to finish the boss off before the next phase, while DGS definitely needs a second phase. So pretty big time save, but that also means that they definitely have to split the Angel pool. I very highly doubt they're gonna be able to. Oh, and they also need the trash, of course.
Oh my gosh, they got stomped.
Oh, they got smashed. Yeah, they get stumped. But the boss 19 was being too close, and the tank as well. They have a battle rest available, but the boss is dead. Okay, yeah. So one thing, of course, is that they also have to deal with all of the trash that they didn't actually finish. They're at 68% trash at this point, so they have to make up all of this trash percentage that they missed because of the vibe. And it's so much too if you look at the difference. Yeah.
They also don't have the Kyrian Spear. There's a lot that's not okay here. I don't know exactly. Oh goodness gracious, this is not great for. Oh, 19 goes down for the side of Stygia again. This is putting them in a pretty precarious position. I don't know. I think that they have to hope that DGS wipes the triple Angel and then has to like re-pull it. That's the only way for Stygia to come back, I think, at this point.
DGS is taking so long to finish off this boss, though, actually. They are now in that extra phase, but it took them so long at this point to trigger the intermission phase as well. I'm not sure if IQ decided to skip a bunch of stomps, because you can actually outrange the stomp as a tank, and then the boss does not use the energy for it, and therefore it takes longer. But I would assume that it would be faster to just get stomped and trigger that second phase quicker, right? But doesn't look like that has been done, as it took forever to start that second phase. And now they're pulling the Usurpers as well on Gargoyle's side, and they're going to be gathering it all up in this Ring of Frost.
Yeah, pulling both sides here. This is great use of Sigil of Misery, making sure that all those Usurpers are feared and they're not hurling the whole entire group while you do line of sight the other pack around the corner. That's actually just great positioning to be able to make sure that everything is going to get grouped up in a timely manner. Chrono drops so low. I think that was Lay on Hands or potentially even Bop, but his Cauterize also got procced there, which is what you hate to see. You do see he is on Forbearance. Okay, he got bopped. He is on Forbearance, which is, I mean, you'd rather have that cooldown later on. Bop is not necessarily the most useful thing. I guess if it was Lay on Hands, I would be more concerned. But now DGS is at the hardest part of the dungeon. They do have that Celestial Alignment and Convoke available to them, and the Bloodlust. They need to make sure that they pull off this triple angel pull cleanly. Otherwise, that will allow Stygia just some room to be able to get back into the run. Otherwise, I think this is DGS's game to lose right here.
Definitely. The triple angel pull, though, can be incredibly dangerous. Of course, it is not fortified anymore like it used to be in the cup. So, but the 2 extra levels on the key still makes them have so much HP anyway, and it's also raging. Now they do have a Moonkin in their group, which means they can soothe one of the angels. It is a 10-second cooldown, so there's no way they can soothe all 3. But as long as Maestin is soothing the left angel, Klotos, he's the one that does the AoE damage to your group, the stacking AoE, like the dot that does increasing damage the longer you're fighting them. And that is really the most dangerous raging effect on these angels. So as long as he does soothe that one, he should be fine. The Ashen being popped as well, Bloodlust being popped, all of the offensive being used. At this point, the only thing that is going to be holding them back is not being able to cleave them evenly. Because if they don't die within like 2 or 3 seconds of each other, then they're healing to full. So there's a very short window of time they actually have to finish all of those angels off.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
Krona?
Ooh, Krona goes down. This is really bad for DGS. They healed them. They healed them. Oh no. So they do have a battle res available to res up Krona, but this may be one of those angles where you just are like, I'm gonna wipe.
They
We're
have
gonna
to
wipe
reset,
and reset. Yeah, exactly. I think Krona released, which I mean, I think that is the correct play. Mason is trying to meld off the pack and just avoid another death, but this is a calamity for DGS.
Yeah, and at this point, Stygia is on the last platform. I mean, there's still a 5 death differential in the time. But, I mean, they actually... I'm not sure what... Okay, so thankfully they didn't finish off Klotos here. That would have been a disaster. So Klotos is still alive. The angel that they killed is the middle angel. So that means that the left angel and the right angel have the damage increase debuff that stacks up, which is not too big of a deal. That's usually the angel that you kill first anyway. So that's fine. If they would have killed Klotos first, then that would have been a problem, because then the middle angel and the left one would have had this stacking debuff. Looks like they're going for a double pull here. Okay, so this is very interesting. So they're actually still going for a double pull without any cooldowns. They have Combust from the mage, but they don't have CA, they don't have PI, and they don't have Ashen Hollow. This is very risky by them. And they also need to kill him at the same time. I wonder if this was the correct choice by DGS to do this. I wonder if this was so much pressure because they wiped. They felt like they have to do this double pull. Let's see if they can pull it off. I mean, this is going to be really hard.
I mean, Stygia does a double pull on their angels. Now they just have Klotos to burn by itself. This is going to be incredibly close. Again, there is 25 seconds of death, 15 seconds of death differential. Holy moly, 15 seconds of death differential in the favor of DGS. But right now, Stygia has a lot of their offensive cooldowns, and they just have to burn Klotos. Whereas Does Gargoyle's stream is starting to get stacked up a lot on this damage taken increase debuff, and on that Klotos dot. Mode dies, Mick dies. Now, this is looking really bad. IQ pops his cheat death. This is going to be a release. Oh goodness, DGS is wiping again. No.
Yeah, this is gonna be a full team wipe. I don't know if this is such a hard pull for them to do. Pulling 2 angels at the same time. Without any of those offensives or defensive cooldowns available. They didn't have any of their shadow melts to get rid of their stacks or reset the stacks. They just had nothing for this pull. It was so risky. No Bloodlust, no Kyrian Spear, no Celestial Alignment, no Heart of the Wild even. This was such a risky pull for them to do, and they felt like they have to do it because they thought they're so behind. But I think they would have been able to try to do that 1-by-1 pull. But at this point, it's Stygia in the lead. They already are fighting devils. They're about to trigger that first intermission phase. And now they're also ahead in the death differential. It's 8 deaths for Stygia versus 10 deaths for DGS, which means it's a 10 seconds time difference in favor for Stygia at this point.
this is such an unfortunate run for DGS with like Mick DCing on the third boss and like all of this other stuff with the Angels going wrong. Oh goodness, now they have to play Astronos by itself and then Klotas by itself. Stygia is so far ahead now, like off of those 2 Angel wipes. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
I mean, at this point, it's just
brutal.
Stygia. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so one thing that I do want to say about Stygia is that pull that they wiped to, they had this one mistake, right? The one mistake that they had was the wipe on that Kyrian Spear pull. And
Yes.
that is something we've seen multiple teams wipe to in the past. Like, that is a very dangerous pull because it's so crucial to be able to stack it up. And there's like 3 different groups that you're trying to stack up into the Kyrian Spear. And that is very difficult. You need to make sure that the C is done correctly. Each interrupt that needs to be done onto the mobs to be able to stack them all up. And it's very important. And you saw Stygia didn't manage to get one of the casters into the spear, and that's what caused them to have a full team wipe. So just
Yeah.
one mistake, not being able to get that caster in, cost them that whole pool. And you saw how much time it cost them too, because not only did they have the full team wipe, which is of course a huge time loss, but they didn't finish off a single mob in that pool, so they had to pull everything one by one. They didn't have a spear anymore, so they had to pull each pack separately. And that
Yeah.
cost them a lot of time. So the fact that they're still managed to recover though and get back and actually benefit off the mistakes that DGS has been doing here at the end of the dungeon, it just really shows that Stygia is a good team. I mean, of course, they had that mistake, but as I said, this was this one single mistake that cost them a lot of time. Being able to recover and keep your head in the game and just finishing without having any further mistakes is really good on them.
I mean, I think if you're DGS, you just have to be super tilted after Mick DCs.
Yeah.
Even though, like, you're going to just do the triple angel pull and, like, he is back and ready for it and whatnot. It is mega frustrating knowing that you also lost, like, the Theater of Pain off of, I don't know, random stuff happening is how I would describe it. I don't know. I think
I
Gargoyle
agree with you that it's definitely very difficult to recover from something like this. But in the end, like, this is a
Yeah,
competition
you
and
have
you
to be
have
able
to
to.
be able to recover, right?
Yeah.
So it's of course very unfortunate if you have any sort of disconnects or anything like, that really unfortunate tornado that throws you off the platform, which is of course the absolute worst thing that could have happened, right? Because then he can't use Ankh or Battle Rest. So it's definitely
Yeah.
just really unfortunate for DGS here that they're getting eliminated. But Stygia, I mean, shout out to them as they're winning this game here and just sweeping DGS 2-0 in this lower bracket run.
Yeah, very rough series there for DGS as Stygia takes that victory there in Spires of Ascension, and it's just kind of all the worst things in the universe kind of collapsing on top of DGS throughout this series, Drenos.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of crucial moments where things went wrong for them in both